After being unjustly dragged from a bank, this black CEO revealed an amazing $900 million investment. Marcus Greene sat in the bank's waiting area, heart racing, palms sweating. The fluorescent lights hummed above him, a cold, clinical contrast to the warmth of the dreams he had built from nothing. Here he was, a proud black CEO, ready to close a deal that could not only elevate his finance company but also breathe life into his community. Yet all that potential hung by a thread, as suspicion began to swirl around him like a dark cloud. "Excuse me, sir," a security guard barked, catching him off guard. Before he could respond, he found himself dragged outside, humiliation washing over him. Eyes from nearby onlookers pierced through him. There were whispers, disbelief, and a few veiled glances of judgment that made his chest tighten. What is happening? He thought, indignation bubbling as if he were a volcano about to erupt. Marcus thought of his grandmother, her wise voice echoing in his heart, the woman who had survived battles in the military, who taught him about resilience and hard work, about fighting against all odds without losing his dignity. Her faith was the backbone of his spirit, but now, under the harsh fluorescent glare, it felt shattered. That he could feel the disbelief of those who supported him and the expectations of those who had always doubted him. A cacophony of emotions brewed within Marcus when suddenly a voice broke through, "Leave him alone. He is one of us." It resonated from the crowd. One by one, people began to voice their support, sharing their own stories of discrimination and bias, creating a bond that had long felt elusive. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. In the wake of the uproar, conversations erupted throughout the affluent suburban town. Many who had felt isolated in their struggles finally found a voice. Marcus, once a mere businessman, became a beacon of hope. With his family beside him, particularly his grandmother, they fueled the fire of this movement seeking justice, unity, and change. Amid the chaos and newfound solidarity, Marcus learned of a staggering $900 million investment opportunity that could elevate his business and provide countless jobs in his community. Hope swelled in him, a solution was within grasp, yet he sensed the battle looming. As he stood outside the bank again, the building loomed over him like a colossal fortress. Today felt different. Supporters surrounded him, their energy radiating with solidarity. But lurking beneath the surface was the deep-seated question: would they finally recognize his merit? Taking a deep breath, Marcus stepped forward, prepared to confront the bank and its judgments, feeling the weight of his community on his shoulders. The air thickened with anticipation, the moment charged with possibility. Would he finally claim the justice he fiercely deserved or be met with the same dismissiveness that had haunted him for years? Marcus took a step toward the bank entrance, the crowd falling silent as if holding its breath. The buzz of anticipation turned the air electric. He felt their hope as a warm embrace, igniting a fire within him. They believed in him, and that belief bolstered his resolve. "Let us go," he murmured to himself, pushing through the sliding doors. The cool air inside was a stark reminder of the world he was up against. The polished floors reflected the fluorescent lights above, casting a harsh glare that made him squint. At the front desk, a few tellers cast dismissive glances, their smiles stiff and unwelcoming. Marcus ignored them, searching for the branch manager. He needed someone to hear him, someone with power to change perceptions. Just then, out of the corner of his eye, he spotted Mr. Thompson, an executive he had previously met, one who had once lauded his work. Thompson was chatting with another manager, laughing heartily, oblivious to the turmoil brewing just beyond the walls. "Excuse me," Marcus called out, his voice echoing slightly. The laughter paused, dropping into a stunned silence. Thompson turned, shock painted across his face as he recognized Marcus. The moment hung in the air, heavy with unspoken tension. "Marcus! What are you doing here?" Thompson's tone was cordial, yet there was an underlying current of discomfort. The atmosphere shifted. Marcus felt the hesitance ripple through the room. "I came to talk about the investment opportunity," Marcus replied, keeping his voice steady. He could feel the energy of his supporters outside, pressing against the glass walls like guardian spirits. Thompson hesitated, casting a glance around the room, as if gauging the reactions of puzzled colleagues. "Let's discuss it in my office." There was the unmistakable whiff of condescension. As they made their way through the maze of cubicles, Marcus kept his chin up, aware of every eye that followed him. His heart raced, fueled by a mix of anger and determination. Once inside Thompson's office, the door clicked shut behind them. The walls were lined with awards and accolades, a stark contrast to the struggle Marcus faced. "Look, I'm aware of what happened outside," Thompson began, taking a seat while avoiding eye contact. "I am not here to discuss that," Marcus interrupted, urgency threading through his voice. "I have an opportunity that could change lives. This investment is about more than just business. It could transform our community. There are processes to follow, protocols." Thompson began, shifting uncomfortably in his chair as if reciting a rehearsed line. "Processes." Marcus spat. His emotions surged, fueling each word. "For years, my community has been held back by those same protocols. I will not let fear continue to stifle progress." His voice rose, ringing in the quiet room. Thompson's gaze flickered to the door. "We need to be careful. This is a major investment." Marcus leaned forward, his tone dropping to a stark plea that broke through the corporate jargon. "I understand the risks and the stakes, but I also know the potential we have. We can build something great together." A silence fell between them, charged with tension. Would Thompson see the promise Marcus envisioned? Would he be willing to bridge the gap of skepticism that had long divided them? Just then, Marcus's phone buzzed in his pocket. He fished it out, glancing briefly at the screen. Notifications lit up like fireworks, messages from supporters, alerting him of a growing movement. Outside, their voices were rising again, a chorus of defiance. "All I need is a chance," he continued, conviction in every syllable. "Let us make history together." Thompson paused, the weight of choice hanging heavily in the room. Would he rise to this moment, or let it slip away? In that pregnant silence, Marcus held his breath, while emotions, hope, determination, fatigue collided within him, leaving only one burning question: was it enough to finally change the narrative? Thompson's expression tightened as he processed Marcus's plea. The seconds felt like hours, stretching the silence until it hummed with potential energy. Marcus dared to breathe, desperate for a spark. "I appreciate your passion, Marcus," Thompson began, his words slow and deliberate. "But you need to understand, corporate decisions are never just about passion. They're driven by numbers, by fiscal responsibility." Fiscal responsibility. Marcus couldn't keep the disbelief from his tone. "While you sit in this office surrounded by accolades, my community struggles to stay afloat. You think about spreadsheets while we think about survival. How can you focus only on profits when lives are on the line?" Thompson flinched, his face flushing. He straightened in his chair, defensive, but Marcus kept pushing, the urgency of the moment igniting every fiber of his being. "I'm asking for an investment that will not only build our community but prove that this bank stands for equity, fairness. This is a chance to rewrite your legacy, to show that this institution truly believes in empowering the people it serves." Thompson hesitated, his fingers tapping lightly against the desk, a nervous tick that gave Marcus a glimmer of hope. Maybe there was a crack in his armor. "I don't know, Marcus. It's complicated. You have a great vision, I can see that. But there are stakeholders to consider." "Stakeholders?" Marcus interrupted, standing now, fueled by adrenaline. What about the stakeholders outside those doors? The families, the kids dreaming of a better tomorrow? Are they not your stakeholders too? The tension in the room grew thick. Marcus's pulse quickened, and for a moment, the outside sounds muffled, focusing only on Thompson's conflicted expression. Let us bring them into this, Thompson said, reluctantly but firmly. Your community's voices could help bolster your pitch. If we're going to consider this investment, it would have to be structured, sure, and it needs their support. A wave of relief washed over Marcus. Yes. Gather them. Let them share their stories, their dreams. If they speak, you'll hear the truth. Thompson nodded slowly, still unsure but clearly weighing the impact of this collaboration. It won't erase the skepticism, he warned. Nothing worth fighting for ever does, Marcus shot back, his voice steadier now. But this is how doors can open. I need you to trust me just once. This is about more than business, Thompson. It's about dignity. As Marcus spoke, he envisioned the faces of hundreds, their anxiety shifting to hope. They would stand with him, ready to make their voices heard. I can arrange a meeting, but you have to prepare them, Thompson conceded, leaning back as if he'd just unlocked a door he hadn't planned to open. Marcus's heart raced. I will. I'll make sure they understand the importance of this moment. He spoke with conviction, fire surging through him. Just then, his phone buzzed again, startling him. He glanced down. A video message glowed back at him on the screen, one of his community members, vibrant and passionate, face beaming with determination. It was a call to action, an invitation for unity. He looked up at Thompson, a spark glimmering in his eyes. We can do this. Together. Thompson leaned forward, a new resolution in his gaze, but he wouldn't fully commit just yet. Let us see how this meeting goes. The stakes have never been higher. As they parted, Marcus felt a strange mix of hope and anxiety rolling through him. Outside, the crowd was still advocating, their voices unwavering. This was far from over. Could he really rally his community and sway Thompson? He had just taken the first step, but could he finish this journey? The burning question echoed in his mind as he pushed through the bank's doors, ready to gather his supporters and launch their voices into the world. Could they make history together? Marcus stepped into the bright sunlight, the energy from the bank's meeting still pulsing through him. He could feel determination radiating from the crowd outside. Every face, every chant reminded him why he was there. This wasn't just a business pitch, it was a fight for justice. Marcus. A familiar voice called out, cutting through the noise like a knife. It was Jamila, one of the community leaders. She pushed through the throng of people, her hands animated as usual. Did you speak to him? She asked, eyes wide with anticipation. Yes. Marcus replied, the excitement pouring out. He is willing to consider us if we bring our voices to the table. He wants to hear from the community. A murmur of excitement swept through the group, voices rising like a wave. Marcus could feel the hope blooming. This was it. The moment where they could transform dreams into action. Let us gather everyone. We have to get their stories ready, Marcus declared, rallying the people around him. This isn't just about funding, it's about showing them our strength. As they spread out, he noticed a little girl nearby, clutching a handwritten sign that read, "My dreams matter." Something in her eyes sparked that unyielding force within him. He knelt down, meeting her gaze. Your dreams matter more than anything else, he told her, fighting back emotion. We're going to make sure they're heard. She grinned, a childlike confidence radiating off her small frame. It was a reminder that this wasn't just business, it was about shaping the future for kids like her. Marcus moved through the crowd, collecting stories and emotions, trying to pull them together like threads weaving into a beautiful tapestry. Each tale was a testament to resilience, loss, and dreams sought after in a community that fought tirelessly, Day by day, hours passed with people sharing their heartfelt experiences. The grandmother who made sacrifices to send her grandchildren to college, the recent unemployment survivor now trying to start a small business. They all articulated their hopes, their fears, and their unwavering belief that they could thrive given the right support. When he finally pulled everyone together again, a sense of urgency compressed the air around them. "Tomorrow is our chance to tell Thompson everything," Marcus announced, the weight of their shared hopes hanging heavy. "We need a united front. We need every voice to echo the same truth." He glanced at Jamila, who nodded, her resolve mirrored in every face around him. "What do we want?" he shouted, fire igniting in his chest. "Justice." The crowd roared back. "When do we want it?" "Now." The energy surged, the entire atmosphere crackling with purpose. Marcus felt alive, buoyed by the belief that they were in this together. But as he looked around, he felt an underlying tension in his stomach. The stakes were so much higher. Could they maintain their momentum? Was it really enough to shift Thompson's stance? He needed a plan to channel this energy into something that couldn't be ignored. As they began to disperse, a looming worry edged into his thoughts. This was a limited-time offer with the bank, and Thompson's decisions would be influenced by his own board. If they didn't make their impact clear enough, the opportunity might slip through their fingers. That night, as he lay in bed, Marcus wrestled with every uncertainty, mentally mapping out the next day. It had to be perfect. It had to be powerful. They had only one shot, but what if their voices weren't enough? What if Thompson changed his mind at the last minute? The shadows of doubt crept in, taunting him with the dark possibility of failure. Morning would come with its own set of challenges. The community needed more than hope. They needed a strategy. Could he devise a clear and convincing message that would resonate through the halls of corporate power? The quiet in his room echoed with the question, an urgency swelling inside him that refused to fade. Tomorrow was their defining moment. Would it lead to the change they longed for, or would it all come crashing down? As dawn broke, the first rays of sunlight cast a warm glow through Marcus's window. It felt like the universe was reminding him that a new day brought new possibilities. But the previous night's anxiety still clung to him, heavy like fog rolling in off the sea. He forced himself to rise, each step feeling monumental as he prepared for the day that could change everything. The streets hummed with an electric buzz as Marcus arrived at the community center. Over the past few weeks, it had transformed from a simple gathering space into a hub of hope and determination. He pushed open the doors, and the familiar faces greeted him, friends and neighbors, all united by a cause that was bigger than themselves. "Marcus." Jamila greeted him, her energy infectious. "Have you thought about the stories we'll tell?" "Yeah, I've been thinking about that all night," he replied, his heart racing. "We need to strike a chord, to connect on a personal level. It's about showing Thompson the real impacts on our lives." They gathered in a circle, each community member sharing their thoughts and experiences. The grandmother's story resurfaced, her sacrifices layered in love and hope. The small business owner discussed his dreams, the frustration palpable as he described the obstacles he faced. With every word, Marcus felt the weight of their struggles. He was their voice now. "Let us do this for each other," Marcus said, standing taller, channeling the strength of the crowd. "Let us remind Thompson that this isn't just numbers, it's about our lives." As they practiced their stories, laughter punctuated the heavy moments. There was something magical in those shared experiences, turning grief into a collective resolve. They laughed, cried, and rallied around the strength of their stories. "All right, it's showtime," Jamila said, her eyes glinting with a fierce determination. "Let us give him a performance he won't forget." When they arrived at the bank, the atmosphere shifted almost instantly. A blend of anxiety and adrenaline surged through Marcus as they waited in the lobby. Wall Street waited behind polished glass, the artifacts of wealth and power looming above them like untouchable giants. Marcus's heart pounded in sync with the ticking clock, each second stretching longer than the last. When Thompson finally emerged, a man in a tailored suit with an air of indifference, the hope of the community hung delicately in the air. "Good morning, everyone," Thompson said, his tone measured. "I understand you have stories to share." Marcus stepped forward, his palms sweaty, but determined. The lives behind him mattered more than any fear. He took a deep breath, and with a clear voice, started telling the story of the grandmother, her sacrifices, and the legacy of love that fueled this fight for justice. One by one, each member stepped up to share their tale. Marcus watched as Thompson shifted, his customary demeanor faltering as the raw emotions unfolded. The man who once seemed unyielding was now visibly moved, the room felt charged, electric, like a storm ready to burst. Then, suddenly, a voice broke through the tension. "But what about our future?" one community member asked, their voice echoing off the high walls. "What guarantee do we have that this is more than just words?" Every heart in the room seemed to hold its breath. Would this man, this power broker, step up? Was he ready to invest in dreams instead of just numbers? The silence widened, hanging in the air precariously, making every face in the room reflect a mix of hope and trepidation. Thompson looked around, his gaze lingering on each person who had trusted him with their stories. I'll need to go over these proposals with my board." Marcus's heart sank slightly at the ambiguity. "When do we hear back?" he pressed, the urgency evident in his voice. "Soon," Thompson responded, avoiding direct eye contact. The community exhaled, but Marcus felt the unease creep back in. Had they made their point clearly enough? Or had they just opened a door that might close again before they could step through it, as they left the bank? Jamila squeezed Marcus's arm. "No matter what, we did our part today. We let them hear us." But he couldn't shake the weight of uncertainty. What would their plan be if they didn't get the backing they desperately needed? How would they continue this fight? All around him, the buzz of camaraderie was palpable, but deep down, Marcus knew they were on a precipice. One misstep could lead to a devastating fall. What would happen if Thompson's board told him to walk away? The thought hardened in his chest like a stone. They had taken a leap, but would it be enough to change the course of their futures? His heart thudded against the uncertainty as he considered what would come next. Would this be the moment of truth they were waiting for, or would they find themselves back at square one? The ride home felt longer than usual, silence heavy and thick in the van. Marcus stared out the window, watching the world blur by. Each streetlight flickered past, reminding him of the countless moments leading to today. Hopes, dreams, stories, all hung like pictures on the wall of his mind. What would they find themselves looking at a week from now? "Marcus, you did great up there," Jamila broke in, her voice light yet sensing his turmoil. "You brought it to life. You made Thompson feel something." "Yeah, but feeling something isn't enough," he mumbled. "We need action. Words won't pay the bills or change our reality." "True," she said, her enthusiasm dimming slightly. "But we've made a step in the right direction. It's more than what we had yesterday." He nodded but felt a tight knot in his stomach. That uncertainty gnawed at him, pulling him deeper into a pit of dread. The community poured their hearts out, trusting a man who had never walked their streets. It felt like dangling their futures by a thread, hoping Thompson would be the one to snip it or weave it into something beautiful. When he got home, the warm scent of dinner welcomed him. His mother was in the kitchen, stirring a pot that bubbled cheerfully. But even the enticing aroma couldn't shake his mood. "Hey, how did it go?" she asked, her eyes bright but searching, picking up on his unease. "We shared our stories. We made our point," he replied, trying to force a smile. "But I don't know if it was enough." "Marcus, you're carrying a lot on your shoulders. You're doing something brave, something I wish I had the strength to do when I was your age," she said, setting down the wooden spoon to look him in the eye. "Remember that. Change doesn't come easily." He sighed, feeling the weight of her words, but also the pulse of doubt. What if we don't get the support we need? What if everything falls apart? His mother moved closer, wrapping him in a reassuring hug. Then we find another way. Remember your father's words, obstacles are just challenges in disguise. We'll face them together. You're not alone in this. Later that night, as he lay in bed, the moonlight sneaked through his curtains, casting a soft glow. Marcus stared at the ceiling, turning over every moment, every detail from that day. If he closed his eyes, he could still hear the voices. The stories. The pain and the hope blended into a choir that refused to be silenced. But the unresolved questions itched at him. How long would they wait for Thompson's board? Days turned into weeks, and they'd be left standing alone against the harsh winds of reality. Cheers of his friends echoed back to him, but beneath that lay the fear of the unknown, gripping him tighter. Suddenly, his phone buzzed, jolting him from his thoughts. It was a message from Jamila, a photo of the group outside the bank, smiles plastered on faces, fists raised in solidarity. This was a reminder of who they were and why this mattered. He didn't want to let them down. Scrolling through, he found a message from an old high school friend. Hey, Marcus. Heard what you guys are doing at the community center. Proud of you. Let me know if you need help. Something sparked inside him, a flicker of optimism cutting through the gloom. Maybe there were more allies out there, untapped potential to convert this hope into tangible action. Renewed energy coursed through him as he typed back, we really could use some support. Let us talk. As he hit send, a thought slipped in uninvited. What if this was the moment a few kind words transformed into a rallying cry? What if they turned the tide and made heads turn? Marcus sat up, heart thumping with possibilities. Maybe this wasn't the end but merely an invitation to a larger fight ahead. Would they seize it? But still lingering at the edge of his mind was the question, what if Thompson's board didn't see the value in their hurt, their stories, their lives? Would they fight not just for survival, but for the essence of who they were meant to be? Driven by a sudden need for clarity, he grabbed his journal and began jotting down ideas. Grip. Plastered tight as the ink flowed, he poured everything he felt, all the hopes he held, laying the groundwork for the next steps. When would they finally know? And at what cost? Tomorrow would come. He had to be ready. Morning light spilled through the window, flooding Marcus's room in a warm embrace. He awoke with determination pulsing through him, a stark contrast to the gnawing doubts from the night before. Today was crucial. Today could be the day they gained traction. Breakfast was a quiet ritual, his mother humming softly in the kitchen. Marcus could feel her glancing at him every now and then, her eyes reflecting the weight of unspoken concerns. He didn't want to carry that weight anymore. He needed to be the one lifting spirits, lighting fires. Are you ready for today? She asked, breaking the silence. Yeah, I'm prepped, he replied, though he felt a flutter of unease. He had rehearsed his words, practiced his pitches, but deep down, he knew that thoughts sometimes fled in the heat of the moment. Once he arrived at the community center, the atmosphere shifted. Jamila was already there, organizing a flurry of flyers and schedules. Her usual spark filled the room, but he noticed the worry lurking beneath. Have you heard anything from Thompson's office? She asked, barely pausing in her task. No news. Not yet, Marcus replied, swallowing a lump in his throat. They gathered their small crew, those who had shown commitment to their cause. There was Derek, a passionate activist with a knack for public speaking. And Eliza, a mother who had spoken so openly about her struggles, her strength shining through her vulnerability. With everyone finally assembled, they formed a circle, sharing their hopes and fears as they had done before. Marcus could sense the collective energy, a current that promised something more than just idle chatter. The day ahead loomed large. Today was about more than just words. Let us not focus on Thompson's board today. Let us talk about what we want, what we deserve, Marcus urged, his voice steady but loud enough to silence the gathering chatter. No more waiting. We're going to show them just how much we matter. Nods of agreement bounced around the group, igniting a spark in their hearts. Jamila stepped in, excited. "We're not just presenting, we're rallying. Today, we'll stand together, and that shows strength. There's power in numbers. What we need is to be seen and heard." With renewed vigor, they worked on finalizing their presentation, each member pitching in with their unique strengths, weaving their stories together raw and real. It felt good to channel their emotions into something tangible. As they finished up, a text from his old friend flashed on Marcus's phone. "Let's discuss some ideas. I can bring some people who believe in your cause. Do you want to meet later?" A surge of excitement coursed through him. This was it. An opportunity to widen their circle and gain crucial support. It felt like the universe was aligning in their favor. "I think we're onto something," he announced to the others, sharing the news. The waves of hope rippled through the group, and one by one, their smiles returned, flickers of renewed confidence lighting their faces. But just as momentum reached fever pitch, Marcus's heart sank a little. He could still hear the doubts whispering in the back of his mind. What if this wasn't enough? The time for their presentation drew near, and the community center soon swelled with anticipation and anxiety. A large crowd waited to hear what they had to say. As Marcus stood at the front of the room, Jamie squeezed his shoulder. "You got this," she said, her eyes shining. He took a deep breath, facing the sea of enthusiastic faces. But what if behind those smiles, there were still unspoken fears? What if today brought with it the very disappointment they were trying to overcome? With his heart pounding, he opened his mouth and prepared to step into the unknown. This was their moment, and he needed to harness the anger, the joy, the frustration, and hope that coursed through each of them. What we're fighting for isn't just for ourselves, it's for everyone who has felt unheard. Before he could continue, the doors swung open, and a familiar figure stepped in. It was Thompson himself, flanked by several board members, eyebrows raised in mild surprise. Marcus clenched the mic, and in that heartbeat of a moment, a new reality began to emerge. Would they embrace it, or turn away? Would this encounter change everything? He knew one thing for sure: they were all in this together now, and he needed to summon every ounce of courage he could muster. Marcus's throat felt dry. The unexpected sight of Thompson stirred a mix of panic and adrenaline in him. He had pictured this moment only not like this. Would the man come to shut them down? Or did he bring an opportunity instead? The crowd squirmed in their seats. Murmurs rippled through the room like wind shifting through grass. Marcus caught Jamila's eye, and she gave a slight nod. Their fight was bigger than one man, but now here he was, right in front of them. "Good afternoon, everyone," Thompson said, his voice smooth like polished marble. "I see there's quite a turnout today. I hope you're ready to share your thoughts." Was that a challenge? A flicker of engagement or mere formality? We are," Marcus blurted, surprising himself. Fueled by the energy of his team and the urgency of their purpose, he started to share their story. "We're here to talk about real issues that impact our community. It's about transparency, fairness, and opportunity for everyone." Each word ignited a fire inside him. He felt the support of those around him, their eyes glued to him, anticipation hanging in the air. Thompson leaned in, listening, and though he wore a mask of professionalism, Marcus thought he detected an eyebrow raising, a flicker of intrigue. Derek stepped in. "We have a plan in place. We're ready to work together, to find mutual benefits that reach beyond profit margins." His passion vibrated through the room, and nods from the crowd confirmed their shared conviction. Thompson maintained his calm demeanor, yet he shifted slightly. "That's bold," he said, but a hint of an approving smile crept in. "What do you envision this partnership looking like?" Marcus froze for a millisecond, a million thoughts racing through his mind. Was he being challenged? Or offered an olive branch? "We want to create programs that empower our community. Job training, business grants, initiatives geared toward progress." Eliza picked up his enthusiasm, her voice unwavering. This isn't just about charity. It's about justice. It's about ensuring that everyone has a seat at the table. Real conversations and actions, not just empty promises. The crowd hummed in agreement. Marcus's heart swelled. They were gaining momentum. There was something electric in the air. Thompson was engaged, yet he still held a barrier of skepticism, his arms crossed. But as the dialogue continued, so did the breakthrough. Thompson asked deeper questions, probing their vision. Each response strengthened Marcus's resolve. What began as fear morphed into determination. Just when they thought they were reaching an understanding, Thompson slightly tilted his head. I can see the passion here. But actions speak louder than words. You want financial backing? You'll need to present a solid plan, with measurable impacts. A chill ran down Marcus's spine. This was both a challenge and an opening. He felt the weight of their dreams and hopes resting heavily on his shoulders. We're ready to put that together, he stated, trying to keep the tremor from his voice. Thompson held his gaze, and for a moment, the room fell silent. He was dissecting them, weighing their sincerity against their doubt. I'll give you 3 weeks. Bring me that plan, and we'll see. Boisterous applause erupted from their crew. The rush of hope buoyed Marcus. He had fought his way into the conversation, but it felt like they were just beginning. In the euphoria of the moment, Marcus could still sense the doubts creeping back. Was 3 weeks enough? What if they failed? The collective cheer of his team faded into a single thought: could they truly protect their cause from the reality of corporate politics? As they gathered their things and began to leave, Marcus overheard Thompson talking quietly with one of the board members. Let us keep an eye on them, he said, and a knot tightened in Marcus's stomach. It wouldn't be easy. They were stepping out of the community center, the sunlight glowing warmly against their skin. Possibility was in the air, but so was uncertainty. Hey, Marcus, Jamila said as they crossed the threshold. Everything is going to change, isn't it? For a split second, he felt the weight of the world, but inside, a tiny spark of hope flickered. I guess we'll find out soon enough. As they walked away, anticipation and doubts wrestling in his heart, one thought remained: how far would they be willing to go to make their dreams a reality, and what consequence awaited them on this new journey? The next few days blurred together, an anxious mix of excitement and dread. Marcus sat at his kitchen table, the sunlight streaming through the window but failing to warm the knot in his stomach. A blank notebook lay open in front of him, pages untouched, waiting for the magic that had to be written. His team needed a plan. They needed something solid, something that would convince Thompson they were worth the risk. Okay, he muttered to himself, thumping a pencil against the pages. How do we make this work? Every hour dragged on. Ideas floated through his mind, but they twisted and tangled like weeds. Every time he felt insight pushing through, doubt threatened to choke it back down. Had they bitten off more than they could chew? Jamila dropped by later, her hands laden with takeout boxes. You look like you've seen better days, she remarked, peering at him with concern. I'm fine, just preparing, Marcus replied, straightening up to meet her gaze. We have to get this right. Right. But you can't do it alone. What about brainstorming together? You know I can help you organize your thoughts better. He shrugged, the tension in his shoulders easing ever so slightly. Jamila always had that way of softening the weight on his chest. She set the food down and pulled out a chair, nodding at him to join her. As they dug into the takeout, Marcus began to share his ideas. Job training is crucial. We need something that not only helps individuals but bolsters the economy. Small business grants. We could even advocate for local entrepreneurs. It'll generate jobs. Jamila grinned. That's more like it. And we need testimonials. Real stories of impact. People need to see that this isn't just theory, it's about actual lives. He scribbled furiously, her suggestions fueling his enthusiasm. Each word lifted the fog in his mind a little more. They spent the evening bouncing ideas back and forth, tossing in concepts of mentorship programs, scholarships, and community events. By the time they finished the last of the takeout, there were pages filled with notes and inspiration. Marcus felt reinvigorated. This could actually work, he said slowly, the reality of their potential taking shape before him, but just as hope surged in his chest, a chill reminder crept back into his thoughts. What if Thompson still doesn't see it? What if he thinks we're just dreamers? Jamila reached across the table, squeezing his wrist. We are more than dreamers. We're fighters. Remember that what we want is bigger than him. Keep pushing for it. Feeling her support envelop him like a warm hug, Marcus nodded, his heart steadied. They couldn't turn back now. Over the next week, the community came alive around them. Everyone seemed to sense the momentum. They held meetings, gathered feedback, and shared their ideas, fueling a collective spark. Yet, every conversation with someone else also brought whispers of doubt, lingering questions about whether these plans would mean anything against the corporate machine. As the deadline loomed closer, Marcus found himself standing in front of a whiteboard in the community center, surrounded by his team. They were presenting their draft proposal, every face trained on him. It felt like they held the fate of their dreams before them, balanced on the sharp edge of a knife. Okay, he started, let us show him what we've got. But in the back of his mind, a sense of foreboding darkened the excitement. What if Thompson had already made his decision? What if this was all for nothing? With the final draft polished and ready, the 3 weeks had somehow flown by faster than he anticipated. They were on the cusp of stepping into the boardroom, a mix of fear and hope swirling inside Marcus. What if we fail? He whispered, mostly to himself. Jamila's voice pulled him back. Marcus, we can't think like that. We've put in the work, and that's all anyone can ask for. We'll show them that this community matters. He nodded, taking in her confidence, and together they stepped into the unknown. As they approached the doors of the boardroom, Marcus felt his heart race. The stakes were higher than ever, and the only thing stronger than his fear was this unshakable belief that things could really change. But just as they were about to enter, a figure stepped out into the hallway. Thompson, a confident smile playing on his lips, holding their proposal in one hand as though it was a trophy and he was alone. The atmosphere shifted, and before they could grasp it, uncertainty flooded back in. Looks like we're about to find out if we're ready for battle, Marcus murmured, and Jamila squeezed his shoulder as they prepared for the unexpected confrontation ahead. What awaited them behind those doors could lead them to victory or the harsh reality of defeat. As Marcus stood in front of the imposing boardroom doors, the air thickened with anticipation. His heart thundered in his chest, a drumbeat of hope and anxiety. Today wasn't just another day, it was everything. Hands shook slightly as he adjusted his tie, trying to project confidence. Jamila stood beside him, her reassuring presence grounding him amidst the surge of emotions. What's the plan, Marcus? Jamila asked softly, her eyes locking onto his. We show them our strength, our stories, and our vision, he replied, determination igniting in his voice. This is more than just a business proposal. It's a future, our future. With a deep breath, they pushed the doors open. The boardroom, sleek and polished, echoed with the murmur of voices. Thompson sat at the head of the table, flanked by several members of the board. A palpable energy filled the room, a cocktail of skepticism, curiosity, and something that felt like anticipation. Thank you for joining us, Thompson said, his voice steady. We're eager to hear what you've developed. Marcus stepped forward, heart racing. He was immediately struck by the gravity of the moment. The weight of every story, every struggle that had brought them here now rested on his shoulders. We're here to change the narrative, Marcus began. To reshape our community and ensure that every voice is heard. He launched into their proposal, sharing testimonials that resonated deeply, stories of families struggling, dreams deferred, and the persistent hope that burned within them. As he spoke, The board members leaned in closer, a flicker of interest dancing in their gazes. Eliza took the floor next, her passion palpable. "We aren't just asking for funds, we're inviting you to be part of this transformative journey. Together, we can create jobs, support local businesses, and pave the way for generations to come." The room held its breath, both powerful and fragile, like a tightly coiled spring ready to snap. As each team member spoke, Marcus noticed more than just the physical presence of the board. They were beginning to feel the emotional weight of what they were presenting. In that moment, the barriers of corporate indifference seemed to soften, but then, a skeptical board member interjected. "This is commendable, but what's the margin of success? How do we ensure our investment doesn't turn into a loss?" Before Marcus could respond, Thompson raised his hand, cutting through the tension like a knife. "Wait," he said, glancing around the room. "I think we may be missing the core of this proposal." Marcus's heart raced again, an echo of past doubts creeping back. Had they miscalculated? But Thompson continued, "We need to think about both community impact and corporate responsibility. The figures will matter, but so will the stories." The room began to buzz again as Thompson pointed to Marcus. "Your energy is inspiring, but this can't just be about passion. Can you integrate measurable outcomes into your plan that will not only resonate in the community but also demonstrate to us why this investment is a risk worth taking?" "Yes, we can do that," Marcus replied, adrenaline coursing through him. "We can provide metrics on job placement, economic growth, and educational advancements. But it has to be a partnership, one where we're all in it together." Thompson nodded thoughtfully. "Then show us what that partnership looks like. Give us proof that your community can thrive with the right support." This was the moment Marcus had been waiting for. We'll revise our plan, bring everyone to the table. This isn't just about us, it's about building a legacy together. We'll include measurable outcomes, testimonials, and even create a collective council that holds us accountable every step of the way. The board murmured amongst themselves, the skepticism gradually fading. It felt like a crack in the dam, the flow of hopeful energy pushing against it. Marcus could see their resolve starting to shift. "Let's take a vote," Thompson declared, his voice cutting through the tension. "We've heard the passion, and I believe there's value in what's been proposed. Let's commit ourselves to a partnership agreement." The room exhaled, a wave of relief washing over everyone. When the votes were cast, it was clear, they had gained the consensus. The dream they'd fought for was blossoming before their eyes. As they walked out of the boardroom, the sun pouring in through the glass, laughter erupted amongst Marcus and his team. Jamila hugged him tightly, tears of joy welling in her eyes. "We did it. We really did it." "It's just the beginning," Marcus said, his heart swelling. "We've got work to do, but we've turned a corner." The weight of the past lifted, replaced by the promise of the future. They were now a team that would shake the ground beneath corporate silence. They were a community that could move mountains together. As they celebrated, Marcus glanced back at the bank, a symbol of what had once held them down but now stood as proof of what was possible. A surge of determination radiated through him. They would not only rewrite their stories but inspire countless others to find their voices too. This was their moment, the dawn of change. And as they walked towards their next steps, noticing the glimmers of hope around them, one thought echoed in his mind: they had shown the world that together, they could achieve the impossible. You need to subscribe now to witness our next incredible journey. This is the moment to show your support. Hit that like button now to feed the algorithm. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. We're crafting history together, and you don't want to miss it. Let your voice be heard. Comment below with your thoughts, we want to hear from you.